In June 1962, a seemingly run-of-the-mill band audition was held at EMI's London recording studio, located in Abbey Road. Overseeing the session was EMI's senior producer, George Martin. While not entirely convinced by the audition performance, he saw enough promise in the four-piece from Liverpool to offer them a contract with EMI's house label, Parlophone. What was to follow over the next 8 years would change popular music forever. The Beatles had arrived, and their impact on social culture in the 1960s and beyond was and remains monumental. Through the early, tumultuous years of Beatlemania, through to the innovations in songwriting and recording practices in the mid to late 60s, the Beatles and their production team at Abbey Road Studios would redefine the way in which music was recorded for generations to come. Now, almost 60 years later, recording music has undergone perhaps an even greater technological leap forward, with the advent of the digital audio workstation in particular. Since the early versions of DAWs in the 1990s, the recording industry has had to adapt to a new normal. What was once the exclusive domain of capital and equipment-heavy recording studios can now be accessed through a standard home computer, bringing music production to the masses. Innovations in mixing and recording in the 1960s can now be achieved with the click of a mouse. But can DIY music production truly replace the hallowed space of the traditional brick-and-mortar recording studio? Is it possible to replicate unique tonal qualities of expensive analog recording and effects equipment? In researching this issue, I was particularly interested in how effective digital recording and effects software could replicate the sound of popular music's golden era of the 1960s. The Beatles' Abbey Road tenure and the recording and mixing practices of the EMI production team provided the ideal case study. Utilising numerous reference sources, including detailed documentation of the Beatles' Abbey Road sessions over a 7-year period, it became apparent that the band's innovative approach to using the recording studio as an instrument led to several groundbreaking recording and mixing techniques. With the limited technology of the time, the Beatles were able to create unique aural landscapes that would become common practices for years to come. As such, this raised the key research question for this project. If the Beatles were to time travel to 2020, could they recreate their 1960s sound using only digital recording technology? In order to answer this, I set out to carefully recreate a series of Beatles tracks spanning their Abbey Road period of 1963 to 1969. Each track was selected to showcase a specific recording or mixing innovation, and to apply these techniques within a digital environment using a DAW and various plugins to replicate the analog equipment of the time. This was a painstaking process, from studying each track, its studio history, instruments, playing techniques, and how the tracks were recorded and mixed. There were, however, several constraints. The instruments used on the recreation tracks were clearly not the same as used by the Beatles, but wherever possible, a suitable alternative instrument was used. The unique playing and singing techniques of the Beatles would be impossible to copy. The physical space in which the recreations were recorded was a home basement, not the acoustically treated surroundings of Abbey Road. Nevertheless, the primary objective of the exercise was to assess the mixing and recording techniques used on the original music, and assess how effectively digital technology could be used to capture the sonic qualities of a bygone era. Utilising a range of plugins designed to emulate the original analogue hardware of Abbey Road, and strictly adhering to the limitations and recording solutions implemented by Martin and his colleagues, each sample track recorded for this research experiment is a faithful recreation of its original counterpart. The results are emphatic. The tonal qualities achieved through the use of a DAW and various plugins were able to closely replicate the various signature tones of the Beatles' recordings. While not perfect imitations due to the previously mentioned constraints, the experiment facilitated the mixing and recording techniques of the time, resulting in highly accurate recreations. The success of this experiment proved beyond doubt the flexibility of digital software in emulating the tonal qualities of valve and tape technology. It raises the question of whether there remains a place in a modern-day recording studio for such hardware when a digital alternative is far more affordable and able to perform as well. In fact, the future of the traditional brick-and-mortar studio remains a serious concern when the power of computing in a home environment can offer similar, if not better, results.